I want to ask you a few questions in this, in regards to property management. We study tenant selection. If you could say a little bit about tenant selection, and specifically, I know in today's paper there was an article on discrimination and how that there is still significant discrimination in our industry. That's upsetting, but I don't know how you all handle that and how you handle tenant selection procedures.
Gotcha. The Fair Housing Act guides us through everything we do in a day's time. How we receive rent, how we take in new applicants, how we treat people after they've already rented the property. If you are going to do for one, you're going to do for all, and you can't treat anyone any different. If you're going to take a photo ID, if you're going to give a floor plan, we even try to get it down to a science. If we give a handshake, you're going to give everyone one. And by treating everyone the same, that protects you. And it is unfortunate that discrimination is out there. But the things you need to watch out for and the things you need to be thinking about whenever you do or don't do something for someone else, by giving them an extra day of rent or letting them park a trailer and you wouldn't let somebody else park a utility trailer on property. You cannot discriminate based on age, race, religion, familial status, and national origin. And you don't have to be actually actively discriminating against the person in order to break that rule. It is just the act of treating them differently that is perceived as discrimination. So what a lot of property management companies will do is they'll have a list of all the qualifications, and on its face you have to qualify, making a certain amount of money per month, rental history, and no multiple misdemeanors, felonies, those kinds of things.
So it's all about the consistency.
It's all about consistency and objectivity.
Yeah, and procedures.
Yes,
Very
absolutely.
Good. What about security deposits?
Security deposits, they have to be kept in a separate account. A lot of people know that. I hope so. And they have to be refunded at the end of the lease. You have to give a 30-day notice whenever you're going to end your lease. A lot of people don't know that either. But the security deposit is kept for a collateral on the property and the condition of the property. Usually what you're going to get is something called a condition form. You move in, it's the condition of the property, especially if somebody hasn't lived there before. You go in and write down everything you got that is damaged in the property or worn or however it is to protect yourself. You're going to keep a copy of that. Whenever the time comes, you move out of the property, you've given your notice, they're going to send you your final bill or your final statement, which will either have your security deposit or it won't have your security deposit, and it will outline why you don't have that security deposit. That move-in condition form is your protection. You need to keep it.
A move-in, move-out checklist kind of thing. What about rent concessions?
Rent concessions come in many forms. You've got move-in specials. Your first month rent is only $99, but your rent rate is $400, so $301. $301 is what I've given you. That's your concession. If you end up having to take a night in a hotel because your sink exploded, or just whatever could possibly happen, that is considered a concession, essentially.
Obviously, the more competitive the market, the more concessions you have to give.
Sometimes it works either way. If someone down the street is giving a $99 move-in special and I'm not, but my occupancy's down, then I need to do that. But if my occupancy is 99%, well, there's a reason that everyone wants to live here, and there's a reason that people don't want to live over there.
Tenant relations. How important is tenant relations to what you do?
Tenant relations is very important. And it usually comes in the form of after they've moved in. It can be in reference to who comes in the property, who doesn't come in the property, who has permission to the property or file, how often you're doing their maintenance and preventative maintenance. But keeping residents in the loop and being there when things go wrong. You kind of have this saying that you teach, 70% of life is being there, 10% is what you look like, 20% is what you did when you got there. Being a property manager is kind of a 24-hour-a-day job. The fire or whatever happens, a natural act of God, a hailstorm, whatever, it's not going to happen when you get there at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's going to happen whenever it wants to happen. And so being there and getting your hands and feet dirty in some cases, that is what it takes to be a property manager. That's what it takes for tenant relations.
Okay. Say something about collecting rents, late rent procedures, and I hate to bring up the topic, but eviction processes.
Collecting rent will usually happen in a certain period, usually between the 1st and the 5th of the month. Our lease states that it has to be in by the 3rd. Then you incur a late fee. Usually after a given amount of time, you're going to have a period when you no longer accept checks, or you no longer accept ACH payments through a credit card, something like that. Then you only accept the money. At some given point in the future, if you don't pay, you don't stay. You've got a 5-day notice that goes out that says you've got 5 days to pay the rent or quit. That begins the court process. If they don't pay the rent, then you go file for a court case. Every county has different paperwork, but the general gist is you serve them paperwork. If they have a court date, they can go in front of a judge and say why they have or why they have not paid their rent, and then the judge makes the decision from there. And we just basically enforce that decision.